It's the time to get down.
And in doing so, we're met with a resounding, hollowing, deafening sound of a 12-gauge shotgun.
Whoa. Ouch.
So when I tell you that the hand of God has been in my life, believe me, it has. I can remember doing gigs in East St. Louis where shooting took place in the club.
Wow.
I can remember more than once thinking to myself, am I going to get out of here alive?
Wow.
On one level, it's kind of interesting to be in those situations, but it's really humbling to be in those situations and be able to walk away and then think back later like, well, now, wait a minute. All the bullets that was flying around in here, how come didn't now one of them hit me? You know what I mean? And which brings you to the reality that nothing is happenstance. A man's steps are preordained. If it was my time to go, surely I would be gone by now.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay. But let's do this now because
we got
people sitting in the room.
About to say,
right.
We need, so many of Phil's wonderful friends coming through. Not to be rude, because we get a little frazzled because of the change going on, and that's the way the energy's here. It's so wonderful. But Phil, you got to introduce
Jerry. Now, Jerry and I go back a ways because one of Lily's best friends, is Kyla Evans. Do you remember Vince Evans that used to play quarterback for
USC.
the Raiders?
Well,
Lily and his wife are very dear friends. And Kyla and Era, his ex-wife, are very close and very dear friends still to this day.
Okay.
So I go back with him at least 27 years.
A little more, yeah.
28 years, maybe?
Easily.
Well, welcome to Jerry. Jerry, give us your full name.
I love you. It's Jerry Foster, Jerry with a G.
Okay.
But real quickly, when Phil and I first met through Kyla and through Vince, quick story, we were down in Manhattan Beach at Kyla's apartment with Vince.
Correct.
And I had never had the pleasure of meeting Phil, and we were talking, and Vince said something to Phil. Do you know that Phil picked up Vince Evans and put him on his shoulder? You know that? Picked him up. And I sat there and I said, this brother's intense. Because, Phil was kind of intense,
He can be a little intense.
And I said, I never want to get on his bad side.
Well, but see, he's only telling part of the story. Here's the other side of the story. The other side of the story is Vince, having been the caliber of athlete that he was, not only in the professional ranks, but in the college ranks. Kind of.
Yeah.
And here I am, and I'm losing hair, and I got gray popping out of my face.
Yeah.
And he said something, and I said, don't you let the gray hair fool you. You'll run up on something here, you ain't going to run up on the football field.
That's true.
And he looked at me like, okay, well then, show me. So I did. I didn't think it required a written invitation. I accepted the invitation. And I didn't hurt him, did I?
No, you didn't hurt him. Pick the brother up. I mean, hoisted him up.
Phil Perry hoists Vince Evans.
Wow.
That sounds like a YouTube video. That we would love to see.
But man, I have to tell you, in regards to Vince is godfather to Little Phil.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay? So we have a connection throughout the ages.
Yes.
Through eternity, we have a connection in that regard. But he's always been, at least to me, he's always been very consistent. Anything I've ever needed, godly counsel, advice, thinking about something and needing to talk and bounce it off of someone who doesn't do what I do for a living,
Yeah.
couldn't ask for a better brother, man. Vince Evans is all right with me.
Wow.
He's all right with me.
You know, we have that thing we would ask Phil, you know, and I tell him to pick and choose what he wants to say on these. But we ask him to always name some of the cool folks in the past.
Right.
And every now and then name some of the uncool folks. So tell us tell us a person, you know, that we might know, that we might not even know is as mellow or as giving. Because you've been around.
I would say if I just had to pick somebody that may not be perceived as the genuinely nice person and giving person that they've always been to me, it would be James Ingram.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, tell us about that.
James isn't. If it wasn't for James Ingram, I never would have been the contractor on Bad Mama Jamma.
Everybody doesn't realize Bad Mama Jamma, background, right? Phil Perry, James Ingram, Howard Hewitt.
Correct.
Wow.
Okay, now.
Wow.
That's the
And
stuff.
James came to me at. We recorded that at. Oh, that's the byproduct of getting old. You can never recall exactly. I think we did it at a little studio off of Hyperion, off of Fountain, in Hollywood. Yeah. And we were walking into the facility, and James said, "You got the union papers?" I said, "Yeah, but they're in the car. I didn't know." I said, "You called me for this. What do you ask me if I got the papers?" He said, "No, man. You got to do the paperwork because we want to get paid. Don't we?" I said, "Yeah." Well, okay, so then So I did and drove and we did that session. And that was the only song we did on that session.
Wow.
One song session. Filled out the paperwork, had Leon Haywood, wonderful organist, wonderful composer, great producer. He signed off on it, and I took it to the union right then, man. I dropped it in the night thing at the union. When the union was at the corner of Highland and Hollywood Boulevard, that used to be a Pacific Bank building, right? They've since moved down the street, but off of Hollywood Boulevard. But I turned the paperwork in, and James calls me the next day, and so and I answered the phone. He said, "Hey man, did you do the?" I said, "I turned it in yesterday." He said, "You still got any union forms?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why? Did Leon pick up a discrepancy on the contract or something?" He said, "No, he wants us to come in and do the rest of the record." And so we did Carl's album, A Background, in a little more than 13, 14 hours.
Well, aren't you known as the one-hit Phil anyway?
Yeah,
One take.
But you got to understand something though. When you're a part of a background section, it's not just about the individuality of the individuals that are singing. It's about the blend that you create, the harmonic bed that you reinforce for the lead singer to cut through. Background isn't taking a step back.
Right.
Okay? Background is getting a sketch in black and white and deciding what color greens you're going to use to accentuate the shadow of the time of day.
Wow. So now wait, let me add something to that.
It's so
you heard
deep,
that?
man.
Everybody, he is deep. Now, Phil,
Deep. Always deep.
who arranged the backgrounds?
Actually,
That's what I'm always curious. Who arranged them? Because you arrange them very often.
but in this particular scenario,
Right.
because James is a co-writer of Mama Jamma. Okay.
Trivia, I didn't know.
James was showing me the parts as we were walking in to certain songs. When we got in there, Leon would ask James, "Did you show him the parts?" And he would say, "Yeah." And then Leon would look at me and say, "Now what do you hear?" I said, "Well, what I hear is going to take away from what's already there, and it doesn't really reinforce the title of the song or create the kind of bed that Carlton could sing over."
Carl
and
Carlton,
still
Bad
cut
Mama
through.
Jamma.
You know, Carl has throughout his career, he has a wonderful voice and he has a wonderful range. But if you put him in a certain rudimentary, perfect fifth, perfect sixth melody. When he gets in his lower register, it doesn't really cut through like that.
Okay.
So you have to be careful and not overstack the bottom so that when he is at the bottom, the lead cuts through.
See,
Now you hear him vocal
See-
arranging it going down.
see, there is a science to it.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
If you can do it. And
What-
a lot of times people get in and they're winging it.
Wait, that you got to
These
submit
brothers-
to the music.
These brothers back in the day and now, had a science to it, and they were able to execute exactly. He's talking about fifths and all
Yeah,
that
they're
stuff.
theorists.
People
They were
just
theorists back in
nowadays
the
you
day.
hear people getting in there and they're just kind of hearing it or whatever. But he knows exactly. That's what I love about you, man. You know exactly what you're singing and what somebody's playing.
I'm just
Okay.
trying to make it better. I'm trying to find where I can fit in and get in.
But let me
know,
just
yeah.
jump in for a second, because Phil and I, like you said, we go back years ago, and I remember when Phil would put out new CDs, and I would be over at his house, and he and Lillian would want me to listen to the track and give him my feedback on what
Really?
I thought about it. And let me say this: I was born and raised in Detroit during the original days of Motown. And the thing about Phil, and I think that as we celebrate his birthday today, to your point, this is an old school master. And see, I grew up, like many of you, I grew up listening to the great soul singer Sam Cooke,
Yes.
Al Green,
Yes.
David
Change
Ruffin.
gonna come.
Right? I'm talking about people, Marvin Gaye,
Yes.
people who could sing, right? And the thing about Phil is that he can sing, and he's a master at his craft. And the thing I've always loved about him, and he's being a little humble here, is that he and I also went to the same church here in Los Angeles at Faithful Central. This is a man of
Okay.
God here.
Okay.
And one thing that I've learned in my work as a branding professional is that this is a brand. This is the Phil Perry brand
Right.
that is emerging today, unlike any time before, because what's coming is better than what's been for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you listening to me?
Yes.
What I'm trying to say
Yes.
here is that God has a plan for this man through your internet TV and everything else that he is doing, because he understands a fundamental truth that all of us as professional brands and as professionals have to embrace, and that is, in order for God to get a blessing to us, he's got to be able to bless others through us. And the only way he can bless others through
Nice.
us is if nobody else looks like us.
Right.
Right.
And so he is in a category of his own. And I tell you, I just thank you, man, for your years and years of joy that you bring to people. Singing
Yes.
in Russia,
Yeah.
singing in Indonesia.
Yes.
You know, and I just want to say one more thing. And that is, this guy is such a joy with his song. When you said one hit wonder, I say to myself,
I meant one take. I meant one take.
take.
Not one hit. Not one hit. One take.
No, I want everybody to
I meant
understand
one
if it's
take.
just one hit, it's fine with me.
That's something
No
else.
trouble with that.
That's something else.
Yeah. And we
No,
know.
I'm sorry, everybody. I need to make that clear.
I want to say one.
First, one take because the man is legendary for doing it in one take.
In one take.
In one take. I'm sorry about that.
And let me just say
Doesn't
one more
believe in
thing. And you do it-
Sorry about that.
I just want to clean that up, because this is my fault. This is
That's
my
a
fault.
faux pas.
I just wanna say this. It doesn't
A
matter.
fuck up.
The thing
This is
about
crazy.
Phil,
This is crazy.
It doesn't matter if he's in an intimate setting. About 4 years ago at the Long Beach Jazz Festival, right, in front of 100,000 Negroes, he's singing ballads and love songs, and everybody's quiet. So
Oh,
he can
yes.
be- He can be in an intimate setting. He could be in a full 100,000. Doesn't matter.
Wembley Stadium.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he did.
That's why.
We're still pretty good.
Huh?
We're still pretty good.
Yeah.
That's why.
That
Life begins at